Hey there, welcome to Angry Bird. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about policing real quick. And because they played the us versus them politics, identity politics over and over and over. And if you guys aren't familiar with, it's weird because today I'm logging in and there's interviews going out by Justin Kleeper. Guy is on the Daily Show, very funny dude, very just he's sly and he has a way of asking questions and getting people to like literally like just answer against themselves, or they'll hold a position they can't explain what it even is on that position. He just got away. And he was out there asking people about January 6th today, or at least that was on the show today, and I got a clip of it, and it was just, it's an embarrassment, man. It's an embarrassment that these people are out there, they don't have any idea about January 6th. So not only do they not know about January 6th, but they got to chime in on the last election because they were younger, and so that never weighed on their conscience when they voted, as an example, of what I'm saying on that. But so they didn't know about January 6th, and we had, if you don't remember, during Trump we had the BLM protests, and that was over George Floyd. George Floyd was basically murdered on live TV, or live television. We had to see it over and over and over and over and over and over and over on repeat and raging, just seeing this guy get killed over and over and over again. All right. We had these protests going on, and it pitted us versus them. It pitted people versus police almost. In a way it did. It enshrined the fact that police officers, knowing or unknowingly, meaning to do harm or not meaning to do harm, with intent or without intent, are infringing on people's rights. And when you infringe to the point that someone else loses theirs, you've gone too far. Okay? And so we had all these BLM protests, and there was a lot of stuff that went out of hand, but there was also such a misportrayal of it too. For instance, if you lived in Portland versus if you lived in Ohio, and what you heard was Portland, if you live there, and you see, and you know the dangers and the risks and what actually occurred. But if you're from Ohio and you're just listening to what we hear out here, I live in Ohio. Welcome, you live out here with me. But if you listen out here, it's like the Democrat mob, and they don't care about law. They release the criminals. They're burning all the cities. It's so gaslightingly disruptive that it makes everyone believe that what they're seeing on TV, what they're seeing protesting, what's going on over there, is that everybody hates the police and not about Floyd. And that's where this policing conversation really needs to stem from. Because if you're going to have an us versus them conversation about police, you have to understand the public side. And I'm not 331 million people. I'm a dude with a perspective. That's it. Average guy just chiming in on it. So if you asked 100 Americans right now and you said, hey, should we allow corruption? Just that word. Nothing else. No explanation. Should we ever tolerate or allow corruption in our police forces? How many out of 100 would you think would say no to that? If you had to guess, right? So I'm going to imagine that every single person I asked said, absolutely we should not allow corruption. Absolutely we shouldn't be doing that, tolerating that stuff, right? So the public is batting 1,000 on the corruption. on not having our rights infringed if we have an interaction with an officer at any given time. Thing is like, everybody has a bad day. Everybody. Officers too. Public, anybody. Life happens, man. People have things that happen that just cannot be explained to another person in words. And they're going through it, and when you escalate something, that needs a de-escalation. Not sure you're the right person for that, if that makes sense. To be the guy trying to fix it. Police officers, to me, are a barrier between crime and my safety from that crime. But as a citizen, we have to worry about, honest to God, have to worry about if the officer's a criminal now. We have to worry about, if somebody might cover something up, if I piss them off or something, or if I make them mad or something, or irritate them or something. When people have absolute control over you through the force of a weapon, and your only saving grace is a witness, that's not a good spot to be in, man. If you're an American citizen and you're trying to be trusting to someone else, and you see it live on TV. I was around for Rodney King. Those cops got off. That's what caused the riots. It wasn't that the cops beat Rodney King up. It was that they got off for it. And then there was protests. So when you think of policing and you think of the us versus them, we have to rethink of what we're even talking about. Because there's guys out there that'll say, everyone wants to defund the police. See, they hate you. That's wording, man. That's not a solution. That's not an actual statement of fact from anybody. Defund the police if you understood the material and not the punchline. It meant build programs that prevented crime. Build programs that help mental illness. Build programs that prevent the need for policing. Sure, there might have been one person going, oh, we need to just get rid of police officers, get rid of the policing. The only people that don't know how silly that shit is the ones that never been without a barrier between them and crime. But if the barrier is going to be the criminal, then how safe are we? I could roll clip after clip after clip after clip after clip after clip. Thousands of hours worth of police officers, now that we got cameras, police officers infringing on rights. And if you're not aware, they don't want police officers right now. They're trying to make it so where police officers have immunity. And if you're a police officer, that means nobody, no harm. You might make a mistake in your whole career, one mistake, two, you might make them. But never with intent of bad. Always trying to help people. Record upon record upon record upon helping people. And you biff one. And not out of malcontent, just out of a mistake, just out of being human like I am. I go out there and I make a mistake right now, Expect to be forgiven a little, right? Let's say you're out there and you're just always full of a good intent and you make a mistake. People can see that if the books are open, if the records are open, if we understand what we're seeing, and there's transparency there. But the problem with the police officers, when they break the law somewhere, they get fired or whatever, they just get hired somewhere else. So the abuse never stops. We're on to that as a public. The abuse never stops. You just shift it somewhere else. And so when Anybody in here, I have a friend that's a police officer from high school. Anybody in here that's a police officer, think of it like that, right? I'll give you an example, all right? There was a manager. I used to work in restaurants. There was a manager named Lyle Dunton, I think. I think that was his name. Doesn't really matter, but bottom line is, poison is poison. Toxicity is toxicity. It don't matter. And what they do in a corporate world, when they're just out trying to make a buck, when they're just out trying to save face and not get sued and not get in trouble, not have to worry about legalities and shit, right? When they're doing that, they just pass the buck. So I inherited this dude, Lyle, man. I had a pretty solid team way back in the day, and smooth sailing ship. Everybody was happy. Everybody's making money. There was revolving doors of employee and staff, but the lion's share all stuck together. Anyway, this guy shows up. He's like a nuclear bomb on my team. I couldn't get rid of the dude. He destroyed everybody quit. I had like no staff. I had down to like skeleton crews all the time. Nobody wanted to show up. Every shift he ran, it was in the ground. And I finally just put my foot down because it was like, my life is just miserable. Everything about my life is miserable, but now this dude's in it. I've lost my staff. It just sucks, man. This guy's just like the toxicity that you just can't imagine on a team. And so I put my foot down. I'm like, I ain't gonna deal with it, man. I can quit, or you can have him. Or you get him somewhere else. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. So they took this guy that had numerous complaints, that had all sorts of problems, write-ups, they took this guy, this toxic dude, and they just moved him somewhere else, and he destroyed that one before they fired him. So I'm trying to use that analogy because that's what the police are doing. They're not getting rid of and isolating problems out of their system completely. They're passing it all around. Well, they'll turn around somewhere else. We just got to give them another chance. Everybody deserves a second chance. But your system of protecting those guys has to change. I got in an argument with my friend from high school, the officer from high school. This guy's named Greg. Brief conversation. Because of BLM, it's hard to talk. Everybody's all crazy, and at each other's throats about policing. And, if you talk bad about a police officer, it's like they just think you hate police officers. It's the policing part, man. It ain't the officer. I don't know who needs to hear that. It's the policing part. It's the rule book part, man. It ain't the officer. It's the, if I back talk to the officer, I got to get dragged out of the car and beaten type of officers. I'm not saying that ever happened to me. I'm just saying I've seen the videos. I've seen videos of this. Some of these officers lost their job and got jobs again. So when you think about policing and you're trying to get the public and the police department and you want them to be like this, the first rule you got to do, if you're policing, very first rule is, if we point out somebody that sucks and the public is saying they suck, and we're giving them to you, man. We're throwing you a gift. We're throwing you a gift. We're calling one out for you. Rodney King, George Floyd, these kind of situations. We call them out for you. All you have to do is show us you care after. Don't police explain it. You can't take a situation that I understand the stresses of policing. Before I go further, I understand them. There are situations I was in that there's so much chaos. I'm stressed in. I don't know if I made the right decision at that moment. There's so many times in those moments that I could rewind the clock back and go, man, I wasn't really, doing it right there. But when lives are involved, You can't fuck up. I'm not asking you to be a perfect police officer. I'm not asking you to police perfect. I'm asking you, before a life ends out there and any infringement is done out there, that you make damn sure it was necessary. Absolutely a safety risk. Not an imaginary one. Not one you walk away from the microphones and start discussing how you're going to say it so the stuff will stick, or the reasons why you did it. This is what I saw and this is what I could say. No, man. People should be allowed to move freely until they are committing a crime. And then investigate the crime. There's people calling you for help that end up dead. And so when you're policing, and let's say I'm just calling you, I need help. Of course I expect you there. I pay taxes. It's an honorable field. You serve the communities. I expect you to come help me. If I'm speeding, I expect you to pull me over and write me a ticket. Tell me slow down, man. You got to be safe out here. But there's a point where you've crossed the line. And if you don't take care of that line crossing, then the public's going to end up, it's always going to be this way, us versus them. There's never going to be trust again. You can't take someone we called you out on and move them somewhere else and then it go, you still got to trust us though. You can't. There's accountability or there's no accountability. And if I pointed someone out to you and I said, that guy's, did this to me, and then we open up his records and he's just got a history of doing this shit, then he did it, right? He did it. And he's doing it. And he's not the right person for that kind of position. And so there's police shortages and there's all sorts of excuses they make for why we need to hire these people, why we can't, they're short. The reason why you're short on police officers is so many different reasons. One is public trust. You gotta make it honorable again to be a police officer, and not because we say so, but because you do so. And then when you get there, everybody's gonna fucking trust you. Nobody's even gonna say nothing about you guys. We're just gonna call out the bad ones, and then you're gonna be with us on it, and then we're gonna trust you for it because it's like, hey, they're with us. We pointed out one of their bad ones, and they said, they weren't trying to defend them this time. They were saying, okay, and we're not asking you not to defend your own, but there's things that are just obvious, man. If I had an employee that did something wrong and it was obvious, I'm not going to try to explain it to the person. I'm just going to own it and be like, yeah, we messed that one up. We missed it. And if I can't control the behavior, and if I can't fix the behavior, or the behavior is too severe, you got to get rid of the behavior. You get rid of the behavior, the trust will be there. Because we know then. We get pulled over, there's accountability if anything happens to me. If we get choked out on the road, there's accountability if that were to happen to me. If you kicked through my door, had no warrant, I ended up dead, there's accountability for it. Because policing is supposed to be protect and serve, and you can't protect and serve if you're infringing. Anyway, I hope that makes sense to somebody. I love y'all. Thanks for chiming in to Angry Bird. And it's another thing that pisses me off. Us versus them. Us versus them. Us versus them. Oh, meanwhile, we got to work with police. The police got to work with us. That's all it is. We just work together, and we're going to get somewhere in policing. Just too many times, something happens there that ain't the way it should go down. All right, love y'all. Bye.